Hello and welcome to the program. It's the Desk on Global Television, and we're in with a big shout as we celebrate today as the United Nations International Peacekeepers Day, and also the World Potato Day is today, talking about the 30th day of May 2024. And not forgetting the fact that we also have a group in Nigeria that is commemorating the May 30th in 1967 to 1970, where the war in Nigeria, civil war in Nigeria did come to an end. So we'll be looking at a very interesting talking points across the globe and also on the national level as we look at happenings in Africa's biggest black nation, Nigeria. My name is Anthony Momodu. Welcome to today's edition of the program, and we'll be joined by two guests on via Zoom. We'll be having the Executive Director of Clean Foundation, in the person of God Peter, who will be joining us all the way from Maiduguri as he has gone on an inspection tour. We'll also be joined on the Zoom by a diplomatic aide and an ace journalist in the person of Olugbenga George, who is also joining us via Zoom. So these two gentlemen will have the task of helping us do a very balanced and focused and patriotic analysis of all the big talking points from the United Nations headquarters, where the United Nations headquarters is observing the International Day for United Nations Peacekeepers, May 30th, after 1948, where the historic decision was made to deploy military observers to the Middle East to supervise the implementation of the Israel-Arab Armistice Agreement and what had now become the United Nations Truce Supervision Organization. Since then, that time, more than 2 million peacekeepers from 125 countries have since served in 71 operations around the world. Today, some 76,000 women and men are serving in 11 conflict zones across Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Also, we'll be looking at the swap of a national anthem by Nigeria. Is the next big talking point we'll be looking at from the national anthem that says, "Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria, call, obey, to serve our father's land with love, strength, and faith. To we, Nigeria, we hate thee." I'll be looking at the implications of this swap of national anthem. We'll also be looking at other issues making the rounds across board. But it's now time for me to welcome my guest, Olugbenga George. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on the desk.
Great to be here. Thank you. Good evening, Nigerians.
Can we get the audio? I hope Okon can come over in the live studios to get it sorted out. Olugbenga there, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Tony. Good evening. Good evening, Nigerians.
Olugbenga George, are you there? All right, let's find out. God Peter, are you there? God Peter, the Executive Director of Clean Foundation. Good evening.
Can you hear me? Good evening. Hello.
All right, let's get to sort out the audio issue. Hello, God Peter. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
All right, I can hear you now. Thank you for joining me on the program, The Desk.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right, and also, Olugbenga George, are you there? Good evening, Olugbenga George. All right, let's begin the conversation with God Peter, who is the Executive Director of a Clean Foundation, one of Nigeria's foremost civil society organizations. Okay, Olugbenga George, thank you for joining us on the desk.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here, Tony. Good evening, Nigerians.
All right, thank you very much. So I've got the two gentlemen who are geared towards giving us a very balanced and informed analysis. Let's begin from the global scene, where today is May 30th, and we've got the United Nations headquarters observing and celebrating the United Nations peacekeepers who have been doing a great job with 71 operations around the world today. Some 76,000 women and men are 7-11 conflict zones around the 6 or 7 continents. Olugbenga George, let's begin the salvo from you. How important has the United Nations peacekeepers been since 1948, where they began their journey as observers in conflict regions, today where we have about 76,000 men and women, 7 in 11 conflict zones across Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East?
Well, I think it's one of the best things that has happened to us across the globe. We must continue to commend the efforts of the United Nations, especially its peacekeeping mission across the different parts of the world, especially where conflict is concerned, and their ability to be able to stabilize and provide security for people who ordinarily would have been victims of circumstances at different levels, but have, through the effort of peacekeeping missions, at least been able to restore peace to troubled areas. And where it is not being restored, at least the presence of security agents of the UN peacekeeping forces in these places continue to cause a restraint by errant forces. Peacekeeping, the initiative, we must say, is one that is highly commendable, and where it not for the sake of that great initiative, one would only wonder what would have become of the world generally. When you look at it from the Middle East and North Atlantic, it was initially Middle East, where this operation started from, but you know that it has expanded now. So it is now Middle East and North Atlantic nations. We call them MENA. That region, even up to date, is still worked on. And the efforts of peacekeeping has actually helped to mitigate the adverse effects of wars, of intertribal, of regional indifferences, and the effect going forward to these nations. Across Africa, as we speak, peacekeeping missions are ongoing, like you quoted in your introduction. In other parts of the world, peacekeeping, is also ongoing, and peacekeeping has helped at least different people across the world to maintain some sense of dignity and have hope, for their existence. Else, I can tell you that some nations and communities would have completely been wiped off. We must continue to commend the efforts of the United Nations peacekeeping force and peacekeeping missions across the globe. I think it's a commendable one, and well, I think we should also urge the countries, who continue to play vital roles, like India, who is the leading contributor to this. I urge that all nations, who have the capacity, join in ensuring that these missions across the globe continue by contributing resources, by contributing human and material resources to strengthen and these missions across the globe.
All right, well said. Let's get the take of the Executive Director of Clean Foundation in person of Gerd Peter. Let's look at Gerd Peter, looking at being one of the chieftains of civil society organizations in Nigeria and Africa. How would you describe the effort of United Nations peacekeepers thus far, especially within the African continent? Would you say they've done enough to help Africa secure its citizenry, or would you say it's been a selective effort by the United Nations?
Well, the answer is neither here nor there. Have they done enough? Well, they are trying. Have they resolved all the conflicts around where they've intervened? The answer is definitely no. But if we go back to recent history, you agree with me that the intervention of Nigeria in Liberia and partly in Sierra Leone, and of course, when you look at the intervention of Obasanjo in Gambia to restore the former president that was moved via a coup, we may say that we've seen some level of stability and effort by sister states or neighboring states to be able to reduce and mitigate the needless and senseless killings of citizens of a particular country. But when you look at the intervention of foreign country or foreign power, Western power, in countries where they have interest and countries where they have no interest is different. As we speak now, there are killings in Sudan. Are we happy with the intervention of the UN and the peace effort of the UN in that area? The answer is obviously no. And so, as well as you know as much as I do, that the intervention of Western interests in some of these conflict zones is not the same, and is not, they do not have one template that fit all. And so where they have more interest, their intervention is quicker. Where their interest is their investment is less, the intervention, you do not have that enough force on ground or put on ground to be able to enforce peace in those areas. So I think more can be done. We appreciate those gallant soldiers that have been killed in such out there working, but again, we need to do more.
All right, let me stay with you as we move to the next talking point, which has to do with a talking point that has been kind of controversial. Just yesterday, we had the president assent to the bill, reverting the national anthem to the old one. No longer Arise, O compatriots, Nigerians call, obey, to serve our father's land with love, strength, and faith, and that the labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain, to serve with our heart and might, one nation bound in freedom, peace, and unity, and that, O God of creation, direct our noble cause and guide our leaders right to help our youth the truth to know. Would you say our leaders have been guided right, and the youth, do they know the truth with what would say our founding fathers and what our leaders have done yesterday? Where do you stand when it comes to the actions, the swift actions of the legislature and Mr. President, without Nigerians being given the chance to either say a yes or a no?
Honestly speaking, I'm still struggling to appreciate the urgency for the bill and the assenting of the bill by Mr. President. I'm still at loss as to why this new item, a national anthem, will change our situation or make us better citizens, or change the economic situation, or stop the killings in the northern part of Nigeria and others, stop the issue of 419, Yahoo Plus, Yahoo, and the issue of kidnapping, adoption, and all of these issues that are facing us daily in our interaction as a people. And so I'm really not sure if this is a quick solution or a long-term solution to the challenges that we face as a people. But having said that, Mr. President and a lot of people in his generation are people that enjoy the best of Nigeria. These are people that when they were done with school, they had jobs waiting for them. These are people that had scholarship given to them to go to school. These are people that had people washing their clothes. They were well fed in their days in the university. And then suddenly, that the same generation are the same set of people that are putting us in the challenges that we find ourselves today as a people. So they fail to mismanage what they enjoy. Years ago, we had refineries that were working. Today, with all manners of leaders that are on board, we're struggling to have one refinery working to serve our purpose. Years ago, we were buying cars in Nigeria for 1,200 or less. Today, a carton of Indomie is what we're buying without the same amount of money. So these leaders are the people that made our naira to depreciate. And so when you want to now address the challenges that you presented to us, I may be very wrong. I don't see the issue of national anthem as the first approach to that issue. If there are attitudinal change, if there are character change that we're not satisfied with, if there is a lifestyle that we think we need to change, what we call in civil society social behavioral change communication is what we need to engage and enforce it in a subtle way that people will wake up one day and agree to the fact that corruption is not acceptable in our society, the women battering or domestic violence is not acceptable in our society, crime and criminality is not acceptable in our society, and then you need to strengthen the family value so that when people go out to the society, they will say that, look, I'm not going to do ABC because my mother and my father will be angry with me, because my community is going to frown our teeth, and then people will now be looking at the society as part of the extended family of their, extension of their family, which is what it is, and they will not carry or do any act that will bring shame to their family. And so I think there are more pressing issues that needed attention. I wish that this kind of bill and the urgency and the speed with which this bill was passed we give the same attention to addressing the economic needs of this country, to addressing the issue of labor minimum wage, to address the issue of ASU needs, to address the issue of the needs of Nigerian students in terms of providing scholarships, to address the challenges we have in our health sector, to provide more infrastructure for the country. So I think it's difficult to really comprehend this thing. Probably in weeks and months to come, we get to appreciate this decision by Mr. President. But like most Nigerians, I'm honestly struggling to understand why such a hasty decision was taken. And again, if you're going to take such decisions that have greater impact on the generality of Nigerians, at least we should have opened up the space for a public hearing, where people from all walks of life would like either support or make amendment or make suggestions. So I want to stop here to say that I think it's a decision that was taken in haste, and it's a decision that did not look into greater issues affecting the country. But I hope that we'll get it right at the end of the day.
Thank you for that amazing salvo. Let's get Olugbenga George. Our national anthem says to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. The national pledge says, I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, honest, to serve Nigeria with all of my strength, to defend her unity and uphold her honor and glory, so help me God. With what the leaders did, would you say they actually have been faithful? Are they being loyal? Are they being honest? Are they serving Nigeria with all of their strength? Are they keeping the unity with their actions yesterday? And are they upholding the honor and glory? And to say, help me God, they had said that this national anthem does not have illicit passion or patriotism, or that is vague. Do you agree with them that this national anthem I just read out is vague and does not have passion? And especially when you remember your national team when they're in front sporting events, when the national anthem is being played, do you believe that that national anthem does not elicit emotions?
Thank you, Tony, for this conversation. I mean, it's something that's taking the rounds and everybody is talking about it. For me, to answer your question straight away, it will be that the very spirit of the Nigerian national anthem and the words that come from it haunts our leaders, our politicians. Because if you take the words and you put it on the table, I will just confidently say that they themselves know that they have not measured up in any way, with the spirit of the letter of the national anthem. And so we shouldn't be surprised. And perhaps the spirit of these words continue to haunt them, that they have not performed their responsibility and they are not living up to this oath, to this promise that they have made to our fatherland. So perhaps that's why they are in a hurry, to change it and go back to a colonial language, a colonial lyric, a colonial. It's so despicable as far as I'm concerned, like Mr. Peter had already stated, amongst the ongoing challenges in Nigeria, but the very important thing to our government, is to be talking about changing our national anthem. It's very funny to me, really. How will that improve the economy of Nigeria? How will that improve the standard of living of the Nigerian people? True, the Nigerian leaders know that the spirit of patriotism is lost, especially in the minds of the followers, according to them. But the truth of the matter is that the people who are the most unpatriotic are those who are in the position of power. Why do I say this? The people in the position of power have everything going on and easy for them, yet they choose to forget the people that elected them to power, and which does not continue to bind the Nigerian people together. So there is disparity already, and it is caused by the leaders. There is the same leaders that use ethnic and religious tactics to divide the people and deprive them of their rights. So the people are already deprived. The people are malnourished, the people are disenfranchised, from the government, and they do not have any benefit from what's going on, and only the leaders do. And, then you're talking to them about patriotism. So the spirit of patriotism will not be awakened by just mere words of our colonial masters. It holds nothing to us, means nothing to the Nigerian people. What the Nigerian people are looking for that will revive the spirit of patriotism is good governance, from those who they elected into power. Good enough for us. This is not a military era where we would have said, well, the people only get whatever is given to them. The people elect, and there is a system, there is a process that has been created through democracy that gives both the elected and the electorate, the opportunity to sit down over matters. And hence, the hurry with which this bill was passed, continues to draw attention and to show that the Nigerian people, in fact, when I, followed all that the Senate president and, the Speaker of the House of Representatives or the Deputy Speaker was saying about eulogizing Mr. President, for expediting action on passing the bill, and I'm like, it seems to me like these people have lost it. Yes, if you know me very well, I do not like to attack government. I like to, see from the realm of reason, let us sit down together and look at these things from. But this one is totally off it, and it doesn't make any sense. Yes, if you feel that the Nigerian people have lost the spirit of patriotism, you should continue to focus on what will revive that spirit. And one of the things that will revive it is not a mere song. And by the way, let's even assume that this song actually carries the spirit that unites the Nigerian people, and, reawakens the spirit of patriotism. How many Nigerians know this song? If you check, this song was last sung in 1970 something. What's the population of Nigerians right now as we speak that were born before that time? The higher population of Nigeria as we speak, fall under the youth category, which would cover almost 70% of the Nigerian populace. Among the 30% that is left, even those who were born before independence are still less than, within that bracket, within that 16, 17-year bracket from independence till the people who fall in that gap are still less. So it's just chasing shadows, and trying to our normal way of looking for trying to cut problems on the head without, rooting out the challenges. So the Nigerian leaders, I must say at this point, they are bereft of ideas. They don't even know what to do again. That's the way I see it. And then they just come up with an irrelevant thing. And I join my voice with many other Nigerians, like Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, who says that they will not continue to use this language. I will not, for example. I'm used to this, and if you want to change it, it's something that we have to prepare for. Who will teach the kids in school? Even the teachers that will teach the children does not know it. The average teacher now in the schools, what's the teacher's age? So how will they know the song to the point where they will now start teaching?
Did you observe
the orientation process?
Did you observe yesterday, even when the anthem was being read out, the majority of the lawmakers were not even singing along?
Because they don't know it, Tony. Many of them don't know it. Even the Arise of Compatriots, the one we use right now, if you have to test all of them one by one, how many of them actually do know it? How many of them? So, all right. And this is something we're familiar with. And then you change it all of a sudden and you are saying we return Nigeria back to its glory days. What glory days? How does a song return the country back to its glory days? They should face governance and focus on providing good governance to the people instead of just dancing around caricature tactics to deceive the people.
All right, well said there. Let me bring in Gad Peter for the final take on this talking matter. Gad Peter, let's look at Obi Ezekwesili, a former Minister of Education, and Shehu Sani, Senator from Kaduna State, had made very damning, takes on this new change. Do you think this is likely to pitch some Nigerians against some others, and this might be a recipe for some conflicts that might not turn out well for Nigerians? And probably, do you think a referendum might be the end point of this, move by the federal government and the legislature?
Well, there's not going to be anything like referendum. We are not there. It's just going to waste of resources and time. I've seen other persons say that if we don't accept this item, They are going to have another song, which is the one during the campaign of President Tinubu. I think you are the one we've been waiting for, something of that nature. I know people joke about it. But in every country, you can never have everybody thinking alike. There are people that are benefiting from the system. There are people that see nothing wrong with this decision. There are those of us that think that the decision was taken in a hurry, which needed to have had further conversation around it. There are people already that have started making money out of this new idea or thought process. And so I won't be surprised, like somebody said, that days later, weeks later, years later, you're going to hear that billions were allocated to create mass awareness or massive awareness, or to create posters or rewrite billboards or something to create awareness around the new national anthem. So I think it's only okay to always have people not agreeing on everything, but how we're able to come to a reasonable conclusion is more important than allowing the situation to degenerate to the level of where people are talking themselves or fighting one another. I want to end by saying that at the bottom of all of this conversation is the issue of governance. If you have good governance, your national anthem or other things may not matter. What people want to see is how are you protecting life and property? How are you ensuring the economy is working? How do the Naira compete favorable with other foreign currency? I mean, these are the issues that is bothering most Nigeria. It's not the issue of ban A, ban B, ban Z. It's not the issue of what we're talking now. So there are lots of issues that are burning that we need to pay attention to.
All right. Well, sir, gentlemen, I will urge you to rejoin the Zoom link again as we go for a very quick break. And I urge you to please kindly rejoin me so that we can finish the other round of talking point, which is of interest to us. We are talking about May 30th, IPOB holds Biafran Heroes Day. We'll be looking at the importance of that day for the commemoration of the Civil War and those we lost. And also Rivers crisis, court declares 25 Rivers Assembly seats vacant finally. So we'll be doing that talking point and others after this short break. Stay with us and rejoin. Thank you. All right, welcome back from that very quick break. You're still watching The Desk on Global Television, the most compelling talk show on TV where we look at salient issues on the global scale and also in the different continents of the world. Currently, we're focusing on the African continent and Africa's biggest black nation, Nigeria. Let's move on to the next talking point. We're looking at the reconciliation of the civil war that did divide Nigeria from 1967 to 1970. And the Biafran side of the divide, talking about the Southeast, has said they want to recognize May 30th as a day of reconciliation and remembrance for all those Nigerians that died in the course of the civil war. And ahead of Biafra Heroes Day declared by the separate indigenous people of Biafra across the Southeast, the Commissioner of Police in Anambra State, Nage Itam, on Wednesday, deployed policemen across schools in the state. Similarly, the Enugu state government rejected the sit-at-home order called by IPOB to mark the day, saying it puts security agencies on red alert to resist any attempt at breaking the law and order. All right, let's begin the conversation. Olugbenga George, thank you for rejoining us once more. Let's look at the issue of reconciliation of the Nigerian people and also commemoration of those who lost their lives during Nigeria's civil war. Do you think it's important for the Nigerian government, the Nigerian people, the 6 geopolitical zones of the country to, as a matter of urgency, to recognize and admit that we lost Nigerians of different kinds during the Civil War, and there's need for reconciliation by accepting that the people of the Southeast also did lose loved ones and embrace them so that we can have true reconciliation by agreeing to recognize this day?
Absolutely, Tony. I believe that the people of the Southeast of Nigeria, who were major victims of the civil war, need to not only be recognized, they need to be compensated, they need to be recognized, and as a nation, we need to have a recompense, for what happened at the civil war. It is a matter of brother against brother, and as much as we will live together, as much as we will agree that Nigeria is one indivisible state, then we must recognize the wounds, that exist between us, and we must make conscientious efforts, to heal those wounds. That's the only way we can live in peace. It's very sad what's going on in the southeast part of Nigeria. One would have thought that by now this issue would have been laid to rest and Nigeria would have come back, as one indivisible state. But up until now, in the minds and the consciousness of many Nigerians, especially of Southeast extraction, there is this continuous disenfranchisement. There's this continuous disconnect, and that's why from time to time you continue to hear of IPOB, we are going to our own Biafra, we are going for this. I mean, from the reintroduction of this democracy, you would remember the days of MASSOB, before it's metamorphosed into IPOB, and IPOB have refused to go, even though our government have continued to meet them with iron hands. If you ask me ordinarily as a Nigerian, I would have said that I expect that the federal government will actually sit down and look into the agitations of the people from the Southeast. Yes, I know that it has gone beyond just mere conversations, because now violence and breaking of law have been introduced into it, and which is not justifiable. Violence does not kill violence. However, the government at the central needs to do what is right. Up until now, we still continue to talk about, I remember prior to the 2023 general election, the discussion and conversation were about whether a president of Southeast extraction, should emerge. And that conversation, from what I understand and know about politics, it cannot be bestowed. Yes, it has to be competed for, but the chances to compete have to be fair. It has to be even, between all the regions, and the people must come together and support. And who says you cannot even decide? For example, when the political parties decided that they were zoning their presidential tickets to the south. Yes, who says they couldn't have gone further to now say we are micro-zoning it to the southeast? Honestly, if that had been done, a lot of things would have happened. A lot of wounds would have been automatically healed. So yes, we need to visit that again. It has become clear that this is not something we can wish away. It is not something that any government that wants to enjoy peace and development can actually look away from. Yes, I've seen the body language of the Southeast leaders, especially the governor, and that for me is purely political. And you ask me again, it is unfair. The people and their leaders need to come together and agree, on the fact, first of all, that there is a problem, that we have been wronged, and that this is the demand we are putting forward to the public for the government to address. Now, let me give a very practical example. May 29 is Democracy Day, right? And you remember that during the day of, I think the first tenure of President Muhammadu Buhari, the struggle came that June 12th should be recognized as the day of democracy, because MK Abiola was deprived of that right, and he died and he didn't have access. Now, today, as we speak, June 12th is the official Democracy Day in Nigeria. So who says that we cannot have a week holiday, a day holiday in Nigeria to even celebrate the lives of millions of people who lost their lives during the Biafra Civil War? Nigeria-Biafra Civil War. Since they are part of us, we cannot separate ourselves, and we are not planning to separate Nigeria, to separate the Southeast from Nigeria. If that is not the plan, then we should look at what we heal and not continue to focus on how to further disenfranchise the people. And we should not play politics with this. It is not a political affair, honestly. It is an issue of a people that have been wronged and need to be pacified. We should rather look for what will pacify the Southeast people. And if it is a holiday that we deem fit, let's give it to them. If it's some sort of remedy in terms of grant, there are so many things that the government can introduce to pacify the people of the Southeast of Nigeria. And we should not continue to pretend that this problem does not exist. As long as we continue to pretend that it does not exist and we think we will move on, we will not know peace. I heard something very horrible recently, in a public place, where somebody said that the Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB, she mentioned a very, very inhumane statement. And, I had to come up and rebuke the woman. I said, I am not of Southeast extraction, but this statement you have made is totally wrong. It is inhumane of you for you to say that somebody should be killed so that there can be peace. How do you kill for peace? How do you kill to make peace in the first place? So the Nigerian government needs to look at it. And I think the first place to look at, to begin, is to actually look at the continuous detention of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, to look at it objectively and decide, maybe unconditionally release him, maybe tie it up with some conditions. As long as it maintains peace, in the nation. But if you continue like this, you hold the guy in detention illegally, by the way, because many times the court have told him, especially under the regime of President Muhammadu Buhari, court had set him free, but they refused to let him go because of security issues. Security issues will continue to escalate.
All right, thank you, Lugbenga George. Well said. Let's drag God Peter into this conversation. Peter, thank you for rejoining us. Peter, just the last 48 hours, we had the leader of the Métis Allah group, Kature Bodeja, who was released after the government had instituted a terrorism charges against him by the Attorney General of the Federation. And some political analysts have said what he was accused of is likened to what Nnamdi Kanu was also accused of. How come it was quick for the federal government to drop those charges, terrorism charges against him, and Kanu is still being withheld? And looking at the cry for May 30th to be, recognized as a day for reconciliation of the Nigerian people and those who died during the Nigerian Biafran War, how sensitive, how important is it for the Nigerian government, the Nigerian people, the 6 geopolitical zones to come together to amend the hurt of the Southeast people? We also know the issue of the fact that the Southeast has lesser number of states compared to other regions of the country.
Well, I think in the spirit of true reconciliation, in the spirit of one nation, one Nigeria, we must be very deliberate and intentional in ensuring that in the true sense of the word, that Nigerians from the Southeast extraction feel a sense of belonging, a sense of oneness, a love that every other Nigeria is entitled to and feels wherever he or she is residing. Over the years, even when people from that part of the country are not involved in conflict, we see them becoming victims of conflicts that do not even affect them directly. So you've had instances where people in a particular state are fighting, they will burn down the business premises of people from the Southeast. We've seen deliberate attempt to make them feel as if they are second-class citizens. And I think that we need to celebrate what connects us more than the dividers. But what we've seen over the years is the dividers. For example, ask yourself this simple question. How many persons from the Southeast have been the Inspector General of Police since 1960 to date? Or even, let's just take from 60 to date. How many of them have been President of Nigeria? How many of them have been Chief Judge of Nigeria? So you can go on and on asking this difficult question about the sense of belonging that we give to them and what they receive and what they feel. And like you rightly pointed out, if you go across the country, other parts of the country have 6, 7 states or thereabout, yet in a region where you have people that are very resourceful and industrial, you have them having just 5 states. And so we must open up this conversation to allow everybody see the Nigeria project as part of this project. And the only way they are going to have that sense of belonging is when you create that space for them. There's nothing wrong stopping somebody from Southeast from becoming the director of DSS, nothing stopping them from being the head of immigration, head of civil defense, or head of NNPC, or any of those places where people think it's the birthright of certain Nigerians. Until of recent, the federal capital ministerial slot, people were beginning to feel the burden of a particular region. But it's a federal capital territory, for crying out loud. And take it or leave it. You may not like Wike for any other reason, but you cannot take away the fact that Wike has brought tremendous change to the federal capital in terms of his intervention. And so we shouldn't use ethnicity, we shouldn't use religion, we shouldn't use gender to discriminate against anybody or any part of the country. Every part of the country is blessed with great talent and great resources and creative mind. All we need to do is to carry them along. Now, when you look at the Nigerian football, for example, why is it that it's only in football that you see people from the Southeast excelling? Because in Nigerians want the best out of that place, and we know that we need to bring resources from across the country. So we must replicate this in several other places around the country and allow the best of us to represent us. So this issue of federal character, this issue of quota system had become more of a nightmare to us than a solution to our problem. Even whenever you're doing affirmative action is not indefinite. Affirmative action is to correct certain things to a particular time, and after that, you allow the people to compete favorably. But even while I talk about the need for the larger Nigeria to support the Southeast to succeed, I equally call on governors in those areas. Just like in other parts of the country where there are governors, there are equally governors in those areas. Sure. How are they using their resources to solve the problem of their people? There are local government in those areas. Are those local government functioning? And so we must balance this conversation to say that, look, yes, the Southeast demand our attention, but again, governors from those regions, senators from those regions, House of Rep members from those regions must make that region to work. And I want to submit by saying that, look, well, at the peak of Boko Haram, despite the fact that some of them killed Nigeria troops, some of them bombed the Nigeria state, amnesty was given to them. Why are we finding it difficult to give Nnamdi Kanu amnesty so that let's see if that can bring about change in those areas? People have used the Nnamdi Kanu issue to keep killing, destroying markets, sit at home on Mondays that affect the economy of that region. I mean, that part of the country is not functioning the way it needs to function. If releasing Nnamdi Kanu is a solution, we need to try it. Moreover, you just gave an example of the Miyetti Allah leader that was released recently. When we've had those issues of the OPC in the past, it was political settlement that brought it. When we had issues of ideological kidnapping in the South region or the Niger Delta area where pipelines were being bombed and people were being adopted, President Yar'Adua looked inward and found a local solution that has made it possible for us to have peace in that area. So if we're searching for true peace, we must not limit ourselves to the use of guns, to the use of prisons, to the use of armory and other things. We must look at those other solutions, those other low-hanging fruit that will be able to bring stability to that region and give everybody a sense of belonging. So I think that we need to do more. And I hope that the Tinubu administration will do more in terms of bringing everybody to the center, in terms of ensuring that the national cake goes round, that when political appointments are given, it's not a particular region that have a birthright to the position of a particular ministry or agency of government. Let's spread it around. Let everybody come to the table what he or she is able to offer. I'm sure once we continue to do that, it will give everybody a sense of belonging. We're going to downplay this regionalism. We're going to downplay this issue of state of origin. And what will be our upper mind in our attention is the fact that, look, I am in Nigeria. It doesn't matter where I come from. The bottom line is that, look, I'm a citizen of this great country. And so based on that, I should be given recognition and given the space to excel. So I think this should be the narrative we should be pushing, and this should be our demands clearly to everybody in position of authority.
All right, gentlemen, you have been fantastic. Let's just take the last talking point, and I'm going to give you 3 minutes each to just keep it, make it a wrap up as we end this very exciting edition of the program, The Desk. Let's take you to Rivers State, where Rivers State High Court, sitting in Port Harcourt, has declared the seats of 25 lawmakers who defected from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the APC vacant pending the determination of the suit before it. Just to let gentlemen know that the Constitution, which has stated that when you're elected through a particular political party and you defect to another political party without any conflict or breakdown of law and order in the party at the federal, you automatically lose your seat. So that's the case we found ourselves in Rivers. Are you excited that finally it looks like the judiciary, which has been topsy-turvy, is beginning to probably hold the Constitution right, and we might begin to see the end of the conflict in Rivers State? Olugbenga George, can you take up from here?
All right, thank you very much. I think, the issue with Rivers State has been long-standing, and it is more of a power game than actually a political game or a governance game. The people, the 27 lawmakers, are lawmakers that were elected by the Nigerian people in their various constituencies. And since last year, when the brawl between the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike and Governor Fubara started, they have been going back and forth. They first defected and all of that. But and now this judgment, which seems to excite Nigerians. But I would like to draw our attention that this judgment, as far as I'm concerned, is not even anything to be excited about. It is still a political judgment, in my point of view. Why do I say this? This is not the first time where you have sitting senator or whatnot decamp to join another political party. And these arguments have existed in our political space for a while. Why will somebody, get the mandate of the people, join through a political party, and then in the middle of that journey decide to turn their backs on the party, on the people? I believe that when the people were voting for this person, they knew that this person belonged to party A, and there were options in the several other parties in that community or in that state, and they chose this party. They chose you. Perhaps people say now that we are no longer in the days of political parties but personalities. But
all right, let's try and wrap it up.
We're also not practicing independent candidacy, so meaning that these people actually came from these political parties. Hence, for me, it is no justice at all, as far as I'm concerned, to say that we should start rejoicing because these people are no longer part of the judgment. Now, the government, that the judgment is not going to be enforced and these people will lose their seats. For me, it is nothing to be happy about. We need to revisit it over and again, except we should only hold water if there has never been any case where a sitting political person, a political an elected politician, they come from a political party to join another while still in power. As long as that has existed in our political space, that thing does not hold any water.
All right, thank you very much. God Peters, in 1 minute, I don't know how you're going to do this, but as quick as possible, please.
I think the Rivers situation is quite embarrassing, and I don't think a mere fact that a pronouncement has been made by a court that 25 members of the State House Assembly that moved to another party should vacate their seat or be on the hold for now should give us a lot of excitement. The Rivers issue is quite a lot of issues that need a lot of conversation and deeper interrogation and decision need to be taken. So I would just say that Rivers people deserve good governance. Rivers people deserve peace. Rivers people deserve to sleep and wake up every day to have a normal life. And they want to see governance at its best. So all of this infighting, outfighting, all of these gladiators, they need to go back to a drawing board.
All right.
And allow the average man and woman on the street to have peace. And this, for me, is the most important thing we should be looking forward to.
All right, thank you very much. I want to say a big thanks to the two gentlemen, the Executive Director of Clean Foundation, in the person of God Peter. Thank you for joining us all the way from Maiduguri. Thank you for your commitment and patriotism. And also Lugbenga George, who is a ace journalist and a diplomatic aide. Thank you. Always a pleasure having you with your very objective but stern analysis of national issues. Thank you, gentlemen, for making today's episode truly amazing. My name is Anthony Momodu saying thank you for joining me on The Desk. Good evening.